Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another Tethered and Whole. So glad you're here. Today, we're talking about perfectionism, not high stakes standards, not craftsmanship, but the kind of perfectionism that leaves you staying late to quote unquote fix a lesson that's already good, rewriting emails 5 times, or maybe feeling like every small mistake proves that you're not cut out for this work. If that hits a nerve, you're not alone. In our exploration of perfectionism, we're going to cover several areas: definitions and research, what it can look like for us in schools, why perfectionism seems to stick in a school, and finally, several strategies to manage your perfectionism. So, what is perfectionism, really? In psychology, perfectionism isn't just liking things to be neat and tidy. Modern research describes it as multidimensional. And listen carefully here. These are two terms that come up a lot throughout today's show. All right. The first term is perfectionistic strivings. Let's call them standards. That means setting very high personal standards in terms of what needs to be done. At a moderate level, perfectionistic strivings lead to conscientiousness and a good work ethic. Taken too far, these strivings lead to overworking things or practicing to a point of minimal gains. For example, I need to get up early and go over my slide deck even though I finished putting it together last night. All right. The second term is perfectionistic concerns. Let's call this worry. This is harsh self-criticism. It's characterized by a fear of mistakes and feeling others expect you to be flawless. Those concern-heavy patterns are the ones most linked to stress, anxiety, and burnout. A recent comprehensive review by the American Psychological Association highlights these dimensions and how they play out across settings. All right, so one is things that need to be done, standards that can be good. The other one is thinking that you're less than. It's internal. All right, here we go, moving on. So here's another question to ask in regard to perfectionism. Whose standards are we chasing? For each one of these, we could stop and dive into where those thoughts come from for each one of us, but that's not what we're talking about today. So here are 3 types of perfectionism, or at least 3 areas where perfectionism can come from. Number 1 is the self-oriented perfectionism. I must be perfect. Did you hear that? It's internal. It comes from inside of you. Number 2, other-oriented. You must be perfect. This one has external forces. It comes from other people. The third one, socially prescribed perfectionism. They expect me to be perfect, where the undefined they add expectations and pressure. It's from society, social media, the news, books, etc. In schools, where accountability and public scrutiny are constant, socially prescribed perfectionism can hit especially hard. All right, we've gone through the definitions and background information regarding perfectionism. So now let's take a look at how perfectionism shows up in educators. I'm going to describe some scenes here, all right? Keep a tally of which ones resonate with you. Number 1, the endless replan. You already have a solid unit. Still, you rebuild your slide deck at 10 p.m. because one transition just felt a little clunky. You're afraid of not being able to teach effectively. Number 2, feedback freeze. You delay returning student work until every comment is just right. You're afraid you won't be a compassionate educator. Number 3, the data spiral. One low benchmark triggers hours of reanalyzing spreadsheets in your gradebook long after the signal is clear. You may then go down the rabbit hole of how-to videos or resources. You are afraid you won't be the expert. Number 4, visibility anxiety. You over-polish newsletters, spend 30 minutes rephrasing a parent message, or scrap a good lesson idea because it isn't bulletproof. You're afraid you won't look good. Research with teachers and early career educators find these patterns aren't just quirky habits. They connect to emotional exhaustion and attrition. In a 2024 qualitative study of early career language teachers, it showed that Socially prescribed perfectionism, that feeling watched and judged by others, that was tied to stress, emotion regulation struggles, and thoughts of leaving the profession. And similarly, during student teaching, unclear expectations can push perfectionistic tendencies into overdrive. Now, that was a research study. This is true for everybody. Candidates try to reduce stress by eliminating all uncertainty by over-controlling their planning, their grading, and their lesson plans. Paradoxically, increasing their stress. So, zooming out, large-scale reviews show that when these perfectionistic concerns dominate, fear of mistakes, harsh self-criticism, burnout risk rises, engagement falls, and mental health suffers. This pattern is consistent across school grade levels and all school demographics and geographies. The obvious question is then, why is perfectionism so pervasive in schools? I got 3 reasons for you. Number 1 is the performance culture in America. The fact that everyone thinks they know how school works because they went through it as a student. Then there are the walkthroughs and public access to the school's data, even our salaries, and that can make us feel like others expect me to be flawless. Combine that with Hollywood's often portrayal of teachers in a poor light, and that means that we have an uphill battle with our reputations. Number 2 is ambiguity. Standards are clear, but how to meet them is not. That ambiguity feels perfectionistic overcorrection, especially in novice teachers. And number 3, identity. Many of us entered education with a strong helper identity. When things go wrong, the self-talk can be brutal. If I cared enough, I'd get it perfect. Reviews warn that this combo, high caring and perfectionistic concerns, create risk for depression and for burnout. Researchers have come up with strategies that work in therapy situations for perfectionism, and they can be used personally. They can be used in teams and, where you can, in policy. Here are my 4 favorites. Number 1, set a good enough criteria in advance. So try this. For recurring tasks such as a family newsletter or slides, write a 3-bullet done is done checklist and time box that task. For example, newsletter, 1 warm opener, 3 bullets, 1 date block, 25 minutes. This helps by pre-committing to sufficiency and prevents the perfectionism procrastination loop. Good enough standards help reduce the over-editing. Number 2, shrink the spotlight of they expect me to be perfect. So when you feel observed by whoever, ask, whose standards am I using? Mine, a specific stakeholder's, or a vague they? If it's a they, replace it with a named audience and a realistic criterion. For example, instead of, they want me to check for understanding all the time, change it to something like, my principal looks for evidence of checks for understanding twice in 15 minutes. This helps because socially prescribed perfectionism fades when expectations are concrete and bounded. Studies with early career teachers highlight this pressure as a retention risk. Remember, clarity is protective. 3rd strategy, practice imperfect exposure. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to choose a low stakes imperfection and you're going to do it on purpose. Send an email without a 3rd revision. Leave 1 slide slightly plain. Let a student-led routine run even if it's sloppy. This repeated exposure breaks the rule of I must avoid mistakes at all costs and shows the feared outcomes, shows that they're tolerable. This is a core therapy technique with growing evidence in perfectionism protocols. The last one, use micro-reflective cycles instead of marathon replanning. In other words, try short bursts of reflection throughout the day rather than 1 long session, maybe on a Sunday afternoon. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. After class, take 90 seconds and you're going to jot down 1 keep, One change and one student voice you heard. Move on. That helps because it preserves learning while blocking the just 5 more tweaks trap that we're often finding ourselves in. And for you leaders out there, here are some things. Take a minute to figure out how you can make the culture of your school one where perfectionism withers on the vine. Here's a strategy. Clarify what good looks like. Convert vague expectations into observable look-fors. Number 2, model fallibility. Admit a misstep publicly and show your revision process. And number 3, protect time. Cap documentation at minimum viable paperwork. All right, so friends, here's the bottom line. High standards are part of professional pride. But when the standard becomes flawlessness, especially in public, high-stakes environment like school, it stops serving us. So start by naming those standards you're using. Define good enough before you begin and practice one small imperfection on purpose this week. That's not lowering the bar. That's clearing the path to sustainable excellence. Here I am. I'm cheering you on for a good enough week. I'm Matt, and I'll see you next time.